The first thing you want to do with pruning a mulberry tree like this, or most trees actually, most other trees have the same rules, and that's where you look for dead, diseased, and damaged limbs or branches. You don't want damage because you don't want the chance of infections getting into those cuts, breaks, splits, whatever they are, and hurting the tree. So you want to get rid of anything that's damaged. Dead is useless, get rid of it. It's probably going to be in the way of new growth anyway. And diseased, well, you don't want diseased stuff on your tree, so get rid of that fast. Now, there's another one you need to look out for, and that's crossed branches. Branches that are crossing each other, branches that are rubbing together. You don't want that friction, that rubbing, that can cause damage, let pests and diseases get into the tree that way, so you get rid of those. And another one to look for is the shape and downward branches. You want to look at the shape that you want and cut according to the shape that you need. And also with downward branches, I like to get rid of them because in a lot of cases, downward branches are just a pain where they're going to get into the way, interfere with other branches, interfere with picking, and maybe they're just too low on the tree and you don't want stuff hanging down low. Now, from what I understand, the sap flow is better in branches that go sideways and upwards anyway. So yes, I remove all my downward pointing branches. Now, normally when I prune my tree, it's in winter and it's still winter, but unfortunately, my tree has decided to send out its buds a little bit early. So it does look like I'm pruning this a bit too late, and I feel like I am, but it's purely just because the tree this year has gone along and gone this far already. Whereas last year at this time, it was nowhere near this stage. Anyway, it's going to be fine. But for you, I highly recommend pruning your tree in winter when it goes dormant and has dropped all its leaves. Now, there is a rule that you need to follow when pruning a branch, and that is to look for a bud that you want to cut above. So one thing is you need to cut above the bud. And then what you'll want to do is look for a bud that points outwards. Generally, you want branches growing outwards from your tree, not into the middle of the tree. So you look for outward facing buds in most cases. So in the case of these branches here, what I'm going to do is look at what's going on. And I can see this branch coming out and going underneath this one. And then it's starting to cross over this branch here. This branch that goes down like this. So I don't think I want this one crossing in between these two. There's a nice gap between the two here that are going out like that. So I'll come back to the main branch back here, and I'm going to cut that close to the main branch and get rid of it just like that. Also, when cutting a branch, you want to cut it on an angle. Hopefully that'll appear like so. And by cutting it on an angle like that, you're not going to have water settle and maybe disease and stuff get in through that cut. It's on an angle, and more than likely things will drip off. As you can see, I've got an outer facing bud that's pointing upwards. So I've done it just a few centimeters above that bud there. Now I'm actually going to take that back further. I'm actually going to go back this far here, like so. And then on the tree, I'm looking again at the buds, and I want to keep it around the same area, but I've got a upward facing bud just here. So there we go. I'll take it off there. Now this thing is a prolific grower. So if sometimes it looks like I'm taking off too much, don't worry. Come back this time next year and it'll be looking like this again. You can see these branches here that are low hanging and pointing downwards, and over there a bit more as well. I don't want them. I like to be able to see under the tree, and I know I'm going to get enough fruit from the rest of the tree. So I'm going to get rid of these completely. And that way I've got a nice clean space under the tree. Just for me personally, I can look out for snakes. We've got snakes in this area, and it's one thing less I need to worry about when walking around here. And that's having a nice clear sight under here. A nice clear view, I guess you should say. Also, when I'm mowing, I want to be able to get around here with the mower and not run into branches and stuff like that. So these are going. This one here has got a bud that's pointing upwards and out, so I'm actually going to leave that there and see what happens with that over the next year. So I'll just cut above it or blow it from this point of view. This one's pointing down, but it's also rubbing against this branch here, so I'll take it out. Bit of dead growth here, don't want that. You can see where I've cut all the undergrowth, those lower branches, that looks a lot better to me. I can see right around this whole area now, which is going to be fantastic because this will be absolutely covered in leaves and you won't be able to see through it. This stuff here, that's growing into the middle of the tree. I don't want that. I like to keep what's called an open vase shape with my tree, which is very common with fruit trees. And what you want to do is let all your branches grow outwards, but have the inside of the tree pretty much spare of branches. That's going to let light in, it's going to let air flow around, be really healthy for the tree so you don't get fungal diseases and stuff like that. So these, you can see they're going to grow up into the middle. No good, time for them to go. Just like that. Now I did cut this earlier, but I've just looked now and seen that it's got branches that are going to go up into the tree to the other branches. Don't want that, so they're going to go. But then if you go back along the trunk, you can see back here that it's damaged. I don't want damaged limbs like this in the tree. Stuff can get in there, infect the tree. So because this branch has got one good one, but a whole bunch of bad ones, I'm just going to take the whole thing out and get rid of it. Now with using a saw, what you can do is you can undercut a branch like this. If you were to cut like that underneath, then what should happen is when you saw through, you get a clean cut and you don't have bits splintering off and ruining the bark or anything like that, peeling backwards because you've undercut that bark underneath. I'm going to take this back further though, closer to the trunk, because there's a couple of opportunities around here where it can actually shoot buds and I don't want them. So as you can see, the other cuts I need to make are for the height. So there's big ones back there. What I'll do is that you can probably see the polypipe here that's bending. If you go to the top of the polypipe, that's about the height I'm going to go with cutting these branches. I don't want to be climbing ladders with my fruit trees. I never do. So this is the height that I like to keep my fruit trees cut to. Doesn't take much, so let's get into it. And as always, I'm going to be looking for an outward facing bud. Always an outward facing bud on this tree. I've cut to this height here, from that height there. I've got to go back and cut all these ones off yet. Let's get back to it. So the other cuts I need to make are the ones where they're inward facing because I want that open center. So you can probably see here, we've got a branch that's pointing to the middle of the tree. I don't want that, so I'll make that go. I've got some more here that are pointing inwards. We'll get rid of them. You can see it's opened up this area in here. We've got more branches coming from the other side. We don't want these. There's a few dead branches too, so I'll grab those while I'm at it. And you can see here, I'm just keeping the inside of the tree here opened up. I'll get rid of this one here, like that. I want to keep this open. This one here, it's growing towards the middle. Get rid of that. And that's a bit better. I like how I've got the middle of the tree open up like this. It's now 1 week later, and that's because I like to go back a few days later and have a look around just to see if I've missed anything. A fresh set of eyes, just checking out to see if there's anything I've missed. I've done that, final trims. Now I just have to wait for all the growth to come back, the berries to grow, and enjoy those beautiful mulberries when they get growing. There's a new feature called Hype where you can hype this video and push it out to other people so I get more exposure on YouTube. Clicking the thumbs up and that sort of thing really helps me out. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next cooking or gardening video. Bye for now.